All right, so get this. We're talking assay results today. And they might just have Gold Rush written all over them.
Oh, intrigue right off the bat. I like it.
Right. So picture this. We've got a company, they're gearing up for like full-scale mining operations, right? And then, bam, their latest test, they come back, and it's basically a potential treasure trove. Precious metals galore.
Sounds like every geologist's dream, really.
Exactly. And that's what's got everyone buzzing about North Bay Resources, Inc. and their Mount Vernon Gold Mine. Their press release just came out October 4th, and it's got some eye-popping numbers they're reporting. Get this, up to 5 ounces of gold per ton of ore.
5 ounces per ton. That's something on its own, yeah. But what's really unusual here, what really caught my eye, is the mix. We're not just talking gold. You've got significant silver, platinum, palladium, even rhodium in the mix.
Whoa, it's like the ultimate precious metal cocktail or something. But okay, before we get too carried away, picturing gold nuggets raining from the sky, gotta ask, what makes this specific mix such a big deal?
All right, so you've got gold, right? Always in demand, a safe bet, historically speaking. But platinum, palladium, those are the real MVPs of industry. Think catalytic converters, those things that reduce emissions from cars, essential stuff, especially with, everyone pushing for greener tech. The value there, it's only going up.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, but you glossed over rhodium. What's the deal with that one?
Ah, rhodium, that's the real gem here.
Yeah.
Talk about rare. This stuff gives platinum a run for its money. And I mean, it's practically irreplaceable in, well, a lot of high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
We're talking aerospace alloys, the really fancy electronics, even certain types of lasers rely on this stuff. When something's that scarce, well, you can bet it's valuable.
So this mix, potentially, it could be worth even more than just a plain old gold mine.
It's definitely possible. Now, keep in mind, extracting and refining multiple metals, that adds a whole other layer of complexity. But if North Bay plays their cards right, this could be huge, a real game changer.
Okay, and speaking of playing it right, they're not just digging up any old patch of dirt, are they? This Mount Vernon mine, it's in that same geological channel as the famous Ruby mine, right? The one with all the stories, said to be one of the richest in North America.
You're right on the money. The Ruby mine, now that's a name that takes you back to the California Gold Rush, 1800s, the whole shebang. The fact that Mount Vernon is, geologically speaking, in the same neighborhood, it definitely adds a certain something, wouldn't you say?
It's got to be a good sign, right? Like, having that shared history, does that make Mount Vernon's potential even bigger?
It gives us a bit of a roadmap, maybe. The Ruby mine, that was a success story, no doubt. It tells us this whole channel, this area, it's got a history of, well, producing some serious mineral wealth. Of course, every mine is its own beast, can't forget that. But it's promising, gotta admit.
All right, so we've got promising metals, a location with, like, a proven track record. What's North Bay's grand plan to actually get all this treasure out of the ground?
So their press release, it mentions they're set to pull out, initially, about 497 tons of ore from 4 different tunnels.
4 different tunnels, that's got to be a lot, right? Can you give us a sense of the scale?
Well, in the grand scheme of mining, 497 tons. It's relatively small scale. Seems like North Bay is, testing the waters here. They're going to process this first batch at their, Bishop Gold Mill, see what they get, then decide how to proceed.
So like a test run before the real deal.
Exactly. Smart move, if you ask me, especially with these metals and their value. Get a clear picture first, then you go big.
And once they start, processing this ore, what happens? The press release, it mentions basic crush and grind with gravity table recovery. Honestly, it sounds kind of brutal. What's actually going on there?
Honestly, yeah. It's surprisingly simple, especially given how effective it is. So first, smash, bash, crush that ore down into smaller chunks. Then grind, practically a powder. Last step, that powder goes onto a vibrating table with grooves and water washes over it.
Okay, so far so good. But how do they separate the actual precious metals from all that, like, rock dust?
That's where the gravity kicks in. See those precious metals? They're dense. So as a table's doing its thing, vibrating, they settle right into those grooves. While all the lighter stuff, the waste, it just gets washed away.
It's like a supersized high-stakes version of panning for gold.
You could say that. Yeah. And this whole gravity thing, it's perfect for the metals they're after. High density, easy to separate, elegant almost.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me. The press release, it mentions a total estimated ore body of 954,000 tons. That's massive. How do they even, get their heads around a number that big?
Now, that is a great question, and it's where things get, well, really interesting.
almost 1 million tons of ore. So how do they even come up with a number that big? And how much can they actually rely on it? Like, what's the process?
Okay, so it's a whole lot of data crunching and some good old-fashioned geological detective work. They drill, they take core samples, analyze the surrounding rock, really get to know the area. And all of that, it gets put together to build get this, a 3D model of the ore body.
Wait, so like a giant underground 3D puzzle?
You got it. But like any good puzzle, sometimes you're missing a piece or two. And the accuracy, it all comes down to how complex is the geology, how densely have they sampled the area. It all factors in.
Okay, so 954,000 tons. It's a target, not a promise. Could be more, could be less.
Mining, it's all about managing risks, just as much as it's about unearthing the rewards.
It's all part of this bigger picture, right? Global markets, the economy, everything's connected. Like this one mine in California, it's affected by what's happening, I don't know, with industry in China or what kind of environmental rules they have in Europe. Wild.
Absolutely. It's all intertwined. And speaking of global trends, the demand for these metals, it's not going anywhere. If anything, it's getting bigger.
How so? Give us the rundown.
Okay, so gold. It's always going to be that safe haven asset, right? People turn to it when things get shaky. Then you've got platinum and palladium, essential for those catalytic converters. And with stricter emission standards, more electric cars on the road, that demand is only going up. And rhodium, aerospace, electronics, even medical devices are using it now. High-tech stuff needs it. So yeah, as technology advances, rhodium's just getting more and more important.
So we're talking about metals that are like woven into the fabric of our world. The cars we drive, the phones we use, it all comes back to this. Suddenly this Mount Vernon mine, it seems even more, I don't know, significant.
It really puts it into perspective. It's not just about, one company striking gold. It's a small part of this much bigger story. The whole world looking for the resources that make everything work.
So what's next? If the demand keeps growing, what does the future hold for mining?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The big push right now is sustainability. Less environmental impact, making sure communities near mines are taken care of, all of that.
Because let's face it, mining, it hasn't always had the best track record.
That's fair to say.
Yeah.
But things are changing, I think. Companies are realizing they have to do better, stricter standards, new tech like bioleaching that uses like bacteria to extract metals with less waste, even using renewable energy to power the whole thing.
So a move towards like a smarter, more responsible way of doing things.
Exactly. And the tech side of things is really exciting. Exploration, for example. Companies are using AI, machine learning, all that to analyze geological data. They can pinpoint deposits with crazy accuracy now. Less invasive methods, too.
Less guesswork, more results.
Right on. And then there's the actual extraction. Automation, robotics, data's everywhere, making it more efficient, potentially safer for the miners, too.
It's kind of wild how tech is changing even the oldest industries,
Totally agree. It's a really, really interesting time to be following this world.
It really makes you think, you know, this little piece of metal, like a gold nugget from the Mount Vernon mine, it has the power to change economies, spark new tech, even influence global politics. It's kind of humbling how connected we are to the physical world, to the earth, and what we take from it.
It really is. We might live in a digital world, but it's all built on, well, stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff we get from the earth.
And the story's not over yet, is it? Who knows what we'll discover next, what new tech is around the corner, how it'll all change.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Always something new. But one thing's for sure, this quest, this search for the resources that make the world go round, that's not going anywhere.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up our deep dive, but before we go, we want to hear from you. If you were betting on the future of mining, where would you put your money? New tech, a brand new discovery, maybe a whole new way of thinking. Let us know. Until next time, keep exploring.